What's up guys, welcome to the 8th tutorial in this social media app series, and today we'll be creating what's kind of the main feature of any social media app, which is the newsfeed. Now if you haven't watched the last videos, that's okay, you can follow right along as I explain how this system works, then use the code I left in the description in your own projects. We'll start by creating the newsfeed we see here in our profile activity and move right along to creating the main newsfeed. So let's get started. Now the first thing we need to do is go into our fragment profile.xml and erase this line of code, which will allow us to see our newsfeed on our profile page right here. And now let's create a new layout file here called item post, and this is just basically going to be exactly what the posts will look like when they appear in our app. So we'll call this item post and we can hit OK. And now this code is going to be found over in the res folder inside of Atom. So inside of the res folder, we look at the layout folder and then item post.xml. We can just go ahead and give this code a copy and simply just paste it into here. Okay, so we're all set now with our item post. Let us exit out of that. And now let's create an API so we can get our post to load onto our profile page. So with that being said, let's shrink this down and shrink that down. And inside of Atom here, we will go into the user.php file and we are going to create a method or API down here called profile timeline. And this is essentially just going to load all of our posts. Okay, so here is our profile timeline API, and I'm not going to go over all of this code, but I will hit on the most important parts. Now, here we're getting our user ID limit and offset. You know what the user ID is and the current state, but the limit and offset value we haven't gone over. So basically the limit and offset are going to help us with infinite loading on the profile page. Say for example, we're visiting someone else's profile, and say that they have 4 posts total. 2 are public privacy posts and 2 are friends only posts. Now if we set the limit equal to 2, we're only going to see the public post, but setting the limit to 10 say, or anything greater than 4 or 4 itself, will display all the posts. And setting the limit to 1 will only display one of the public posts. So moving on, we have our select statement. Right here we're getting the users, and further down we have our privacy flags and relations between the account. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky or confusing because we need to know which post we are going to see when we visit someone else's profile. So that is going to take into the account the privacy level of the post that they have made, as well as our relationship to the individual. Say if we are friends with someone, we are going to see different posts than if we're not friends with someone, given that they have made a post of the friend's privacy level. So essentially that's what's going on down here. We're getting our current states here for all our different scenarios. We are displaying different posts. Now further down, we have more statements here, and we commented this code out. We just left it there because we are going to implement check like in the next episode when we get our comment and like system up and running. So let's hit Control S on that and move right along. Now we're going to have to create a post model inside of our networking application, and what the post model is going to do is take all of the fields here in our post table, such as post ID, user ID, post status image, and is going to put them into a class so we can later deal with them. Inside of our model, we will say new Java class, and we will call this post model. So normally we could create this class using the Postman and JSON converter like we did in earlier videos, but for you guys I went ahead and did it already. So just make sure you check the description of the video and you can get this exact code. I'm just going to paste it here, and we have an error up top, and that is because we don't have the parcel implementation. Now to get that, we can jump right over to our Atom, and inside of here we will go ahead and look at the res folder inside of our, where is it now, the build.gradle, and we'll scroll down and get this implementation. We're also going to add the image view here as well. So shrink this, go into our module app, post that there, and sync. Alright, once it is done syncing, we have successfully implemented our parcel. Now we can head over to our user interface and add this method that we just created in our PHP into our calls here. So this will say profile timeline. Alright, this looks good here, and now we can get the data into our app over in our profile fragment. So we are going to firstly generate some butter knife injections for our fragment profile. We can right click this, generate, and generate butter knife injections, hit OK on that. Alright, so we have our newsfeed and we have our progress bar, and now inside of our onCreate view, before we create the layout manager, you probably know by now that we are going to need an adapter. So let's create a class called the post adapter, and then we'll get back to our fragment. So inside of adapter, we will create this class, post adapter. Alright, now we are going to write some code here. So here we have implemented our recycler view. Now we can hit Alt Enter over our view holder, and we are going to want to create a class called view holder. So this looks good here, but down in our view holder class, we are going to need to say extends recycler view view holder. Oops. Alright, so this is all set here, and now let's actually add some code. Okay, so what we did here was create our context as well as our post models. We also have our constructor here. Then we went up here and implemented our methods by hitting Alt Enter. We got the view holder, the onBind, as well as our get item count. Further down in our class, we hit Alt Enter and we just generated a constructor that calls super. So now let's create our view and inflate it inside of the onCreate view holder. Alright, so here we have created our view. Now what we need to do is simply highlight over this and generate our butter knife injections, and we can just hit OK on that. So let's take all this code here and we are going to put it inside of our view holder class. So right here, except for the post models, we can hit Control X, and right in here we will paste it just like that. Alright, so that looks good, and right here we need to add the following line of code. Alright, so we are all set. Now, we are going to skip the onBind view holder code for now, but we are going to implement it in a little bit. And the last thing we need to do in this class is simply return our postModels.size. And now back inside of our profile fragment, we can use our post adapter and post model, but okay, we've generated our butter knife injections. All right, we're good. Now let's add a little bit of code here. So we have created some variables here. Now again, limit and offset are going to help us with the infinite scrolling. Initially, we are going to set the limit to 2. So basically what that means is we're only going to allow 2 posts to show. And the offset we will explain in a little bit when it deals with the infinite scrolling. So let's continue here. Alright, so here we have created or initialized our onBinder after we created it here under current state. And after that, we are creating our linear layout manager, setting our post adapter, user ID, and current state right here. And then we are setting the adapter, setting our newsfeeds adapter to the post adapter. So after this, we are going to need to create a method that's going to respond to the page when it is being scrolled. So we're going to have to load post as the page scrolls. So let's create a onScrolled method, and we're going to add it to the newsfeed here. Alright, so this is our onScrolled method that we are overriding. All we did was implement the override after we said new recycler view.onScrolled listener. So inside of here, we can go ahead and get rid of this here, and we are going to add some code, and the offset value will make sense once we are done with this. And basically what we're going to do is figure out how many posts we have in total to load, how many posts we have already loaded, and so in that way we will detect when we hit the bottom, and when we hit the bottom, we are going to load more posts. So let me explain it after we are done writing here. That might have been a little confusing. Alright, so inside of here we are creating a variable called the visible item count, which is essentially what we can see, the total item count, which is the total amount of posts that we have to load, and then we have past visible items, which is essentially what we can't see. So right here, this if statement is detecting when we hit the bottom or when we are at our total count or total item count, and we are going to load more posts once we reach that value. So now we see we have a load profile post method. We are going to create that shortly, but first let me clean these errors up here, and we essentially just need to erase this. Oops. And we should be all set. So erase some lines here, and we also need to override our start method, or our onStart method, sorry. So let's go and do that. We are going to generate override. We're looking for onStart. Alright, so inside of our onStart override method, we are going to say, alright, so now let's create our load profile post method. We'll give some space here, and here we will say the following. Okay, so this is our load profile post method, and this is going to look quite familiar to you guys if you have seen the past videos, and that's because all we are doing is creating an instance of the user interface. Then we are putting some parameters, including our user ID, limit, offset, and state. Then we are making a retrofit to callback, which we get a response, and then we also get a failure. Here we are setting the visibility of our newsfeed to gone, and if we do have a response, then we're adding all of our posts. And on failure, we are going to do the same and put something went wrong, or not the same, but we are just going to set the visibility to gone. Alright, now we have to override two more methods, which is going to be the onDestroy. So let's right click, generate, and override. Now we are looking for onDestroy and onDestroy view. So here is onDestroy, and we will also get onDestroy view. So inside of our onDestroy, we are going to clear our post models and then notify the adapter that the dataset has changed. Alright, and then all we are doing in the onDestroy override method is unbinding our unbinder. So now we have to find a way to pass our user ID and our current state here into our, or not into our, but we have to pass it to our profile fragment. And to do that, we are going to use the profile page adapter as well as the bundle variable. So let's go to our profile page adapter, and we are going to add some code here. Okay, so what we did here is very straightforward. All we did is create a user ID as well as our current state, and then inside of our get item, we essentially created a profile fragment and then bundle our user ID and current state. Then we are setting the arguments to bundle, but now we have to actually go inside of our profile activity to the show user data method, and that's where we are going to add our new parameters. So let's go into the profile activity, and in the show user data method, looks like it's right here. So this profile view pager adapter, we are going to add this code. Alright, so we have added our user ID and our state. Now we can head back to our post adapter class and start working on the onBind view holder that we put off so long ago. So in here we are essentially just going to display our post. We are going to also add some nice things like our icons and stuff like that. So let's do this. Okay, I'm just going to take a pause here really quick because we have a few errors that we have to resolve. So let me explain what's up here and we will get to these. So here we have our post model, we're creating it, and basically if the post has text, then we are going to show the text in the holder because we can either just post a picture or just post text or what have you. And else then we are going to set that holder to gone. Now, right here, we are going to set the text of the person that posted the post. And right here, we are going to get our nice icons, our friends, only me, and global. Further down, we are checking if they have a status image, which would be the image that you uploaded. And then we are drawing it inside the box or inside the holder if we do, and if not, then we aren't. We are just going to put the default placeholder. So let's look at this base URL 1 here. Now the reason that we're using this base URL 1 is because if we go and look inside of our database in the post table, we essentially do not have an absolute path here in the status image. So compare this path that we have here inside of our post table to the users, like our profile URL, we have an absolute path. So we need to create the base URL 1 to get us the absolute path inside of our post table. So if we hop over to our API client, you can see that I've already created the base URL 1, which is the exact same thing as this one. We just tacked on a 1. So let's uncomment this out and we'll be all set to go. Now the error goes away, we are all good. And now on to our try catch block. So what we're doing here, like we just set our privacy level of our post, we set the name, we set the status image, and we set the text. The last thing that we have to do is set the date. Now this AGO parse or AGO date parse or AGO date parse, however you call it, is going to be code directly from Google. That's going to help us get how long ago the post was made. So let's go into our util package and create a class called AGO date parse. And inside of here, you can just find this code in the description of the video. And it looks like we are missing our package. Alright, so we're all set here, and again, this code is just going to take the time that the post was made, which is right here, the status time, is going to take that and convert it into how long ago it was posted with what time it is currently. So here we have like a minute ago, hours ago, days ago, and such like that. So let's head back to this class and hit all enter here, and we are good to go. Now there's a little bit of code left in this onBind view holder, so we will write this and everything should be working good. Alright, so inside of here we have created the if statement to check if we have a profile picture or not. If we do, we are putting it into the little image view, and if we don't, we are setting the default image placeholder. Alright, and now what we need to do is run the app and see if our posts are appearing when we visit the profile page. So I will stop that and give it a run. Then if we head to our profile page, we can see that we in fact do have our posts appearing. Now we don't have or I don't have multiple posts made, but at the end of the video we'll make sure that's working good, but we can definitely assume that we are good to go for now. So now let's go and start creation of our newsfeed timeline. This will not take long because the post adapter is already made and it's basically going to be the same thing as our profile fragment. We are just going to edit the newsfeed fragment. So first we need to go into our database table and we are going to create a new table and it's going to be called timeline. Alright, so this is our table called timeline, and we have an ID, whose timeline it is, the post ID, as well as the status time. Now, we set, of course, the values here, but the status time is going to be the current timestamp default value. We hit auto increment and made the time ID primary. So let's hit go on this, or save rather. And it looks very good. Now we have to make the whose timeline and post ID unique, so check those and hit the unique. Now what we have to do is make a trigger, so whenever a post is added to the post table, the database is going to get the post ID, check that user's friends list, whoever made the post, and display that post on the timeline table for all of that user's friends to see. So to do this, we have to go to our post table, and we are going to go up here to triggers and we will say add trigger. Now the code that's going to be found here you can get in the description of the video, but I'm just going to write this out and it will do exactly what I just explained. It's going to scan or get the post ID, check the user's friends list, and then put the post in the timeline table for all the user's friends to see. Okay. Alright, so now that our code is inside of here, we can go ahead and hit go. And the alert trigger has been created. So now let's create an API for getting the timeline posts inside of our user.php, which is in our atom. Exit out of this, and we don't need item post. So inside of here, we are going to create a new API, and it's going to be called get timeline post. Alright, so here we have our get timeline post API, and of course we are connecting to the database. We are getting our user ID limit and offset. Then we are making a statement here, which is going to be exactly like what I said. We are going to use that trigger to get the post that we need given the specific constraints, which will be the privacy level and if we are friends with a person or not. And then we are executing here and we are echoing the reviews. So let's actually put this into our user interface. We can hit Control S, push this down, and we will go into our user interface and we're going to write the following call. Alright, this looks good, and now let's go into our newsfeed fragment and fill that out. It's going to essentially be the exact same thing as our profile fragment. I'm just going to clear these classes out here. Alright, so here we are in our newsfeed fragment, and we can actually just go ahead and generate our butter knife injections. So we will right click generate, and we will hit OK on that. Now the rest of the code can simply just be copied over from profile fragment. However, we are going to make a few changes. So we will just copy all of this. And we can go ahead and paste it right here. We'll hit OK on that. Now let's scroll up and go down this class and see what we need to change. So I think we will actually, for this, we are going to change the limit to 3, and that's because we're on a bigger screen so we can show more posts at one time. And we have our array list. We are getting the user ID, current state, and unbind. which actually I do not believe we need in this class because we're not visiting a profile, therefore we don't need the state or user ID, but we do need that unbinder statement actually. So that looks good. Our onAttach, inside of our onCreate, we are going to get our view, then we are hitting our unbind. We'll make sure this actually says fragment newsfeed here. Okay, then we have the unbind. We are creating our linear layout, and this is actually going to say not newsfeed, but right here we are going to take away this one and just use the newsfeed and newsfeed progress bar. So underneath that, we can go ahead and get rid of this code. And we're going to set the adapter, set our on scroller as well. And we are doing the exact same thing as far as detecting when we need to load the next post. Right here, we can change this to load timeline. And we will just switch that in a second. Alright, so inside of our timeline method, we are going to change this right here to the get instance from Firebase. Alright, and actually we don't need a state here, so we can go ahead and simply just get rid of this. So everything else is going to stay the same in here. Now, I believe we are not going to have the onDestroy override method. It's going to be called onPause. So let's go down here. We will hit generate override method and say onPause. Okay, and then inside of here, we are just going to do this exact same thing. So we can hit Control X. And we will simply paste that into there. We can get rid of the onDestroy method. And we'll be all good to go. Now we can go ahead and run the app and see that it works. However, I only have one friend currently on the app, so I'm going to add someone else. I'm going to make some posts, and then we will see that everything's good to go. Okay, so here's our app, and we see that it works perfectly fine. We see we have our global post as well as a friends post. Now there is one thing that we're missing, and it is the text at the top. So let's fix that really quick. And we also did change one more thing, which is inside of our newsfeed fragment class, we changed the get profile post to get timeline. Now that's essential, or else you'll just see your profile postings appear on this newsfeed. So let's change the database so we can see the text. Now I can't believe we didn't see this earlier, but inside of our post table, this variable here, post, is actually meant to be text and not int. So let's actually change that right now. We can just go to change. And this will actually be text here. And we can just give it a length of 255. So let's hit save. We will run this again to make sure that it works. And we will be able to tell if it works. It will not load these postings here. And that's because inside of our database, all of our posts have been 0 because we've been setting it to int. So let's actually just make a post really quick. New post, and we can add an image. This will do. And we will make this an only me just for fun. So the post is successful, and let's go to our feed, and we see that we have our text now and it is an only me post. So everything is working just perfectly. That will be the end of this video, guys. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.